When the news first started circulating that the Dallas Cowboys had made a sudden move to sign Parris Campbell, it immediately sent shockwaves through Cowboys Nation, not because Campbell is a household superstar, but because of what this move represents at this exact moment in time. Dallas does not make moves like this randomly, especially not in the middle of a season filled with pressure, expectations, and a shrinking championship window. This signing came out of necessity, urgency, and perhaps even quiet desperation as the Cowboys face a growing wide receiver crisis that has become impossible to ignore. For weeks now, fans, analysts, and even opposing defenses have seen the same thing. Outside of CeeDee Lamb, this passing offense has been dangerously thin, predictable, and vulnerable. The Cowboys entered the season believing their receiver room was good enough. There was confidence that internal development, chemistry, and scheme could compensate for the lack of a true second-star wideout. But football has a way of exposing weaknesses quickly, and the NFL is unforgiving when teams try to get by on hope instead of depth. Injuries, inconsistent route running, drops in key moments, and an inability to consistently separate have all contributed to an offense that too often stalls when defenses sell out to stop CeeDee Lamb. And that is exactly what defensive coordinators have been doing. Double teams, bracket coverage, physical press at the line, and forcing Dak Prescott to throw into tight windows have become the weekly blueprint against Dallas. That pressure does not just affect the receivers, it affects Dak. It affects the offensive line. It affects play calling. When a quarterback knows his options are limited, he hesitates just a fraction longer. And in the NFL, that fraction of a second is the difference between a completion and a sack, between a touchdown drive and a punt. The Cowboys know this, and they also know that leaning on Lamb for 12 to 15 targets every single week is not a sustainable formula, especially if they have serious postseason aspirations. That is why the signing of Parris Campbell, while not flashy on the surface, is actually incredibly revealing. Campbell is a former second-round pick who entered the league with significant expectations due to his speed, versatility, and explosive playmaking ability. Coming out of college, he was viewed as the type of player who could stretch defenses, create mismatches in the slot, and turn short passes into long gains with his quick acceleration and vision after the catch. His NFL career, however, has been a frustrating mix of flashes and setbacks. Injuries repeatedly interrupted his rhythm, preventing him from stringing together consistent seasons and truly settling into a defined role. Yet the talent never disappeared. When Campbell has been healthy, he has shown that he can separate, he can win on crossing routes, and he can stress a defense horizontally and vertically. Those traits matter a lot for a Cowboys offense that has become too static and too easy to read. Dallas does not need Campbell to be a number one receiver. They do not even need him to be a number two. What they need is someone defenses must respect, someone who cannot be ignored, someone who forces safeties to hesitate and linebackers to take a step in the wrong direction. This move also tells us that the Cowboys are not comfortable waiting anymore. They are not content to see if things magically improve. The front office clearly evaluated the situation and realized that standing pat was the bigger risk. Signing Campbell is a low-cost move with potential upside, and in a league where injuries can derail seasons overnight, having another experienced receiver who understands NFL coverages is valuable. Even if Campbell only plays a rotational role, even if he is used primarily in certain packages, his presence alone changes how defenses have to line up. From a schematic standpoint, Campbell fits naturally into what Dallas wants to do. He can line up in the slot, go in motion before the snap, run quick slants, shallow crosses, and vertical seams. That versatility gives the coaching staff more flexibility and gives Dak Prescott clearer reads. It also opens things up for the running game and the tight ends because defenses can no longer collapse everything toward Lamb without consequences. Football is a game of inches and reactions, and sometimes one additional threat is all it takes to tilt the balance. Of course, skepticism is fair. Cowboys fans have been burned before by depth signings that promised potential but delivered little. There is a reason the reaction online has been mixed. Some fans see this as a desperate move, a sign that the roster construction failed earlier in the year. Others see it as a smart adjustment, proof that the team is willing to adapt, rather than stubbornly cling to a flawed plan. Both perspectives can exist at the same time. This signing does not magically fix everything, but it does address a problem that was becoming impossible to hide. There's also the human element to consider. For Parris Campbell, this is an opportunity. The NFL is a league where careers can pivot quickly. One strong stretch of games, one key catch in a big moment, and narratives change. Dallas provides a massive stage, intense scrutiny, and a chance to contribute to meaningful football. For a player who has dealt with setbacks, that kind of opportunity can be motivating. Sometimes all a player needs is the right situation, the right quarterback, and the right role. This move also reflects the broader reality of the Cowboys' timeline. The window is now. The roster is built to compete. The defense is strong. The expectations are championship level. When you are in that position, you cannot afford to let one positional weakness undermine everything else. Dallas understands that every season with Dak Prescott under center carries weight, and every missed opportunity adds pressure. Signing Campbell is not about making headlines, it is about survival in a brutal conference where margins are thin and mistakes are punished. What makes this situation even more compelling is how quickly it all unfolded. There was no long buildup, no extended rumors. The Cowboys saw a need and acted. That decisiveness suggests internal urgency and awareness. It suggests that practices, film sessions, and games all pointed toward the same conclusion. Help was needed. And while Campbell may not be the final answer, he is at least an attempt to stabilize a shaky situation. If Campbell can stay healthy and carve out a role, even modest production could have a ripple effect across the offense. A few catches per game, a couple of explosive plays, and suddenly drives are extended, time of possession improves, and the pressure on the defense lessens. Football is interconnected that way. One small upgrade can create chain reactions that elevate the entire team. Ultimately, this signing should be viewed as what it is, a calculated gamble. The Cowboys are betting that Parris Campbell still has something left to offer and that their system can bring out the best version of him. It is not a move rooted in panic, but it is rooted in reality. The reality that the receiver room needed help, the reality that standing still was no longer an option, the reality that in the NFL, adaptation is often the difference between contenders and pretenders. As the season continues, all eyes will be on how Campbell is integrated, how quickly he earns trust, and whether this move becomes a footnote or a turning point. Cowboys fans have seen enough football to know that sometimes the smallest moves end up having the biggest impact. And sometimes the moves that don't dominate headlines are the ones that quietly keep a season alive. Whether Parris Campbell becomes a spark or simply depth, his arrival signals one undeniable truth. The Cowboys are aware of their flaws and they are trying to fix them before it's too late.